It's been a while since we've talked about the Greater Idaho movement here on The Story. While it may be back of mind for many of us here in the metro, it's top of mind to a lot of folks out east. In case you're wondering what Greater Idaho is, it started in 2020. The goal is to move the Oregon border to the west to create one big Idaho. Supporters say people in eastern Oregon don't feel like lawmakers in Salem take their concerns seriously, and they would better align with Idaho's conservative legislature. For those hearing about this for the first time, you're likely thinking, yeah, right, no way that would ever happen. And that's a very reasonable thought, since this thing would need approvals at the state and federal level, which are very unlikely. But it has not stopped people in eastern Oregon from taking steps towards the improbable possibility. So far, voters in 13 Oregon counties have approved local ballot questions related to the Greater Idaho movement. These are not move the border now type of questions, since that would not be legal. They're more about asking their current elected leaders to have meetings about the impacts of a border move. And now there are two Greater Idaho bills in Salem. One is more of the same, regarding talks about a border move, but the other would create a task force to explore how something like this could happen. House Bill 3488 would create the Move Oregon-Idaho Border Task Force to look at the impacts of a border move on residents and businesses, as well as a process that would have to happen to actually move the border. The bill directs the task force to prepare a report with that information by January of 2027. The bill had its first reading in the House earlier this month and was referred to a committee where it's been for the past week and a half without any hearings scheduled. The other piece of legislation in Salem is Senate Joint Memorial 7, which is less of a bill and more of a recommendation. It urges Oregon and Idaho to simply talk about moving borders. They had its first reading in the Senate in mid-January, was referred to a committee more than a month ago, and has no hearing scheduled. So it's not looking good. The Idaho legislature passed a similar memorial in 2023, which has not really led to anything. Now, for this to actually happen, it would require approval of both legislatures in Salem and Boise, and then approval from the U.S. Congress in D.C. Again, a long shot. Idaho's governor has publicly supported border talks, but it's been crickets from Governor Tina Kotek. In fact, the Greater Idaho website even has this helpful little counter in the bottom corner noting how many days it's been since they sent a letter to Governor Kotek last summer inviting her to meet. 222 days and counting. But the lack of interest from the legislature and Governor Kotek has not stopped the Greater Idaho campaign from putting their movement in front of lawmakers, whether they like it or not. There are 5 billboards in the Salem area touting the movement, but it's not all rah-rah Idaho in eastern Oregon. Check out this billboard near the town of Lapine in Deschutes County. A man named David Arlant told the news team at the Wallowa Chieftain that he paid nearly $5,000 to put up the billboard, showing that there are people in eastern Oregon who love being a part of Oregon. Now, it just so happens that billboard is near the home of the founder of the Greater Idaho movement, Mike McCarter, who lives in Lapine. Arlant told the Chieftain staff that another reason he put the billboard there was to, quote, get in McCarter's face. So, if lawmakers have to see Greater Idaho billboards in Salem, McCarter gets to see some love for Oregon not far from home.